My name is Dr. Jackie Wright. I'm a human health, environmental toxicologist and risk assessor. So I evaluate chemicals in the environment and how we interact with them as humans and make sure that it's safe. So PFAS is a shortened name for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. Now PFAS was invented in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and it has particular properties that are really, really useful in a whole range of products. So it's water resistant and it's oil resistant, but it's also heat resistant. So it's used in lots and lots of different products. It comes off various other household items like cooking products. It might get into our food, or it comes off packaging. So the heat resistant and grease resistant packaging, it might come off that and go into our food products, and we eat those. We have this low level of exposure that comes from all these household products that PFAS has actually been used in. For low level contamination that remain in the environment from past practices, which is what we expect to see with the Westgate Tunnel. There were some past industrial operations in the areas where the tunnel is being proposed to go. The material they're going to dig out, there may be some low concentrations that remain in there. Again, they're away from where the sources are, so where they were actually used. So they've moved into the environment, so we've got low levels. And what we're talking about with low levels is levels that are at or below the guidelines that we normally would apply. As far as the Westgate Tunnel project is concerned, they're removing soil from underground. The only way that it would be of concern to the community is if there were high levels in that soil, and you also have to have exposure to that soil. So where they're removing it from the tunnel and managing it, the community can't be exposed to that because it's been contained within those operations. We actually have to come into direct contact with it and ingest it for it to be a concern to us. And we can't do that when they're just removing it, managing it, containing it, and taking it away. So there's two parts to it. The level that might be there, which we understand is likely to be low, so we don't expect it to be high enough to be of concern, but also we have to actually be able to be exposed to it, and that's going to be managed to make sure that we aren't exposed to it while they're removing it from the Westgate Tunnel project. So with the tunnel project, it's very different from places like Fiskville. So Fiskville was a firefighting training ground. It actually had a lot of operations where they were using PFAS foam. So they were actually spraying firefighting foams that had high levels of PFAS in it directly onto fires, which they were training to put out. The firefighters were exposed to those foams, but also other chemicals that come from burning various different things in the firefighting training. But they were using high concentrations. They were exposed to high concentrations. Those high concentrations were then present on that site, and they moved around all on that site, and also got into water bodies on that site and then moved off site from those water bodies. But because it's a source, like it has high concentrations on it, there are much higher concentrations on the site and also moving off site into the environment, because that's where we had high concentrations being used. With the Westgate Tunnel, we're looking at lower concentrations of historical uses of PFAS, which remain in the environment. They've moved away from their sources a long time ago. They're remaining in the soil, they're low concentrations, and they're being removed in the soil and in the water. That's taken away and managed appropriately. So we're not talking about it being a high concentration source. So they're quite different.